Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am.
Okay, we are going to begin with the second unit today of cloud computing. As I told you, the portion is not much, and each of the chapters looks at the syllabus, at the whole process of cloud computing from the market point of view. That is, the different companies who are providing us cloud services and how do they work. That is what we are going to learn throughout this syllabus. But the second unit that we are going to focus a little bit on a network and hardware or infrastructure that is required for a cloud-based service. Okay, so this second unit will be all about it. All right. So we all know that when we have cloud computing environment, uh, you have a server or a data center and you have clients. Okay, so there is going to be a network that connects the clients to the server or to the distributed servers, and the clients are able to access cloud-based services in a virtualized environment on their client machines. So the most important hardware and infrastructure present in a cloud computing environment is client, data center, and distributed servers. All three of them, in short, we had learned in the previous chapter. So in this particular chapter, we are going to start off by learning about clients, and then later on the other infrastructure and the network related issues that come up when we are talking about cloud computing. So we all know what are clients. In a network setup, client are machines, clients are devices which request for a service, and servers are devices, servers are machine which provide the service. So generally, a cloud user or a cloud service user who is at the receiving end will be making use of devices which are called as clients. Now, clients, we learned in the previous chapter also, are generally of three types. That is mobile clients, thin clients, and thick clients. Okay. So first of all, try to understand that clients are machines through which you will access a cloud service. Clients are machines, devices through which you are able to access the cloud services. So if at all the user is all the time moving from one place to another, he is a mobile user, maybe he is a salesman, maybe he is a kind of a person who has to go to different places to do his job or to do his work at the same time. Whatever work he is doing, that data he wants to send to his organization, then such a kind of a user will be a mobile user. He may make use of a laptop, he may make use of a personal digital assistant, or he may make use of a simple mobile phone. But the common point among all these three is that the user is mobile. User is mobile means he is moving from one geographical location to another. And hence, such a kind of a terminal that he will be using at his end when he is moving from one point to another will be called as a mobile client. So, mobile client doesn't always mean that it's a mobile phone. It could be a PDA, it could be a laptop, it could be a notebook computer, it could be any device, any terminal through which he is able to access the cloud services. So mobile clients, whenever the users are using, there are going to be certain limitation. One is limited application usage. So when the client is moving, when the user is moving from one point to another, he will be given certain access rights. He won't be allowed to make use of the entire application as such, but some amount of it or some part of the application he may be allowed to use depending on the type of user he is. If he's only an operator, if he's only supposed to enter the data, maybe very little access rights will be given to him and limited application usage will be there. There's one important reason also for that. One is speed, and second one is security concerns. Speed because he may be moving around, he may be in different geographical locations, so depending on the internet speed he is able to access those services. Second, since he is moving around and since through the network the data will be transmitted as well as received, security of data is an important issue, especially if he is a mobile client, if he is a client who is going to change his geographical location on and often. Then we have the second type of clients. We have learned this in the previous chapter again. That is thin clients. I have told you in large organizations where there are going to be n number of terminals through which input and output of data is going to happen. In such a case, what could be important, what could be useful is a type of machine or a type of device which is called as a thin client. The reason it is known as thin is because the meaning of the word thin there means that there is no processor, there is not going to be any storage. The computer as such is going to be just an input and output device. The basic computing facilities that are there in any computer will be missing in a thin client. Okay, so it is a client without any hardware, without any hard disk. It does not have any processing speed, so processor could be missing there. Simply it is a device through which the servers can be accessed. It's a display device, you can say. Only the monitor and the keyboard is going to be there. The processing speed and the processing capability is not going to be there. So when this will be useful, when will a thin client be useful? It can be useful for an in-house cloud. What do you mean by an in-house cloud? A cloud service which is local to one organization. For example, our college, if you think, we can have an in-house cloud there. We host the cloud services on the server, and there can be many clients in different departments, many users. We have about 150 employees in the college. So all 150 employees can make use of the cloud services, and within that organization, within the college only it is going to be used. That is called as in-house. So there you have a private network, or you may have a private cloud which is accessible only to the users of Gokte College of Commerce. So this kind of a thin client service or a thin client device can be useful for an in-house cloud. You can also imagine a large software company, and they are trying to work on work in collaboration on different projects. So suppose they are maintaining their data in one place and different project teams are working on different projects, then they can also make use of thin clients wherein they are able to transmit and receive the data. All the computing will happen at the server side, only input and output will happen at the client side. So this kind of a thin client machine can be useful in a virtualized environment. It is very less expensive because you're going to not have to invest in very high end computers. The configuration is going to be very, very simple. So you're not going to spend too much. They're easy to maintain because hardly any processing and all that, no storage. You only have input and output device. High data security is required as the data is stored in data centers. So if you're using thin clients, your data is not going to be stored on your local machine. It will always be stored at the server side. So all the time the clients will be interacting with the server. During that process, data is going to be brought and it is going to be sent. That is, transmission and receiving of data will happen. So when the data is in the process of being transmitted to the server, there is always a possibility that the security is breached and some unauthenticated user gets into the network and data, confidential data, is either lost or maybe corrupted or maliciously used. So data security is going to be of highest concern when you're using thin clients. Okay. Then there's the third type of machine, the third type of client that we can use, which we call as the thick client. The meaning of the word thick there is the clients are general PCs, maybe laptops, they may be computers, wherein they have some amount of storage, they have some amount of uh, uh, processing capability. So, especially in cases when the user wants to maintain files or maybe data on their own machines, thick clients can be used. Or the users wish to run applications that don't run on the cloud. So, you're not all the time going to be connected to the cloud. There may be certain standalone applications also which you want to use. Then thick clients will be required. Thin clients will not be useful. Now, such machines are again quite vulnerable to attacks. Vulnerable means they are weak machines. Each computer has got storage capacity. So maybe if you store some data there, they are always open to attacks. So if at all we are thinking about a general standalone computer which might get connected on and off to the cloud, then your data that is available on your machine could get corrupted, could be used by hackers, could the unauthenticated users might get into your machine and try to steal your data. So such clients are quite vulnerable to attacks. Failures of thick client is a cause of concern. Why it is a cause of concern? Because generally these client machines are not only concerned with input and output, they are also concerned with processing, they are also concerned with storage of data. So generally if you are in a network and your computer crashes or your computer fails, then definitely till it gets restored you have no access to the data stored on that machine. So you need to have good algorithms, good encryption methodologies which are able to protect your data. Okay. So now we need to talk about the security issues in a cloud-based environment. Of course, security of data is very, very important. And over the years, in last 15 to 20 years, lot of algorithms have been developed, lot of methods have been developed, which are working quite well in order to secure your data in a cloud environment. Though security is an issue, there are certain inherent benefits when we talk about cloud. Now, understand the meaning of the word inherent. Inherent means what? Because we are using cloud, characteristically, there are certain benefits that we get through a cloud. Characteristically means because it's a cloud, the way a cloud works, that itself, the way a cloud is designed, that itself will give that benefit to us. So there are two contradictory things. One is you may say security is a concern, then we are saying it has got some inherent benefits. Security of data is definitely a concern. You always want your data to be secure, to not be used by other users who are not authenticated to use it. But because it's a cloud environment, automatically the data gets secure to certain extent. Okay. So you can have a look at this diagram. There are clients, there's a server, and there's going to be a switch via which transmission and receiving of data will happen. So data stored on local server with clients that stores data has more opportunity for data leakage than clients that maintain no permanent storage. Okay. So what does that mean? If you are having a network based setup, then whatever you store on that local machine, there is going to be a higher possibility of data leakage or higher possibility of security being compromised. Okay. Whereas if you are having it on the server, inherently there are some benefits that we get inherently because it's a cloud and because it's a client server architecture, we get certain advantages even if security is a concern. So what are these advantages, what are these benefits that we get when we are using a cloud environment or a client server architecture? So if you talk about data leakage, first point is data leakage. The benefit that we are going to get, data leakage might be there. You understand what is meant by leakage? In the sense your data is vulnerable. It can be accessed by anyone. Anybody can siphon your data. Anybody can have access to your data. That is called as data leakage. Means it's not going to be on one machine. It's not going to be restricted to one machine. Maybe others are going to use it. That is called as data leakage. But data leakage is not a good thing. However, since we are using a cloud, the benefit that we get is that all your data will be in centralized place. It will be in one place. So all your algorithms, all your setup, you can try to focus on one machine which needs to be secure. If your servers are secure, you need not bother about the client. If your network is secure, you need not bother about securing each of the clients. That may not be required. So since we are going to have data at the data center, since the data is going to be available only on the server, storage is going to happen on the server. So data leakage as such is not an issue. All your data will be in one place. So all your algorithms of encryption, decryption, of maintaining a firewall, everything can be restricted to that server and your data remains secure. Second issue is offloading work. And offloading work, what benefit does it get? First of all, try to understand what is meant by offloading work. Offloading work means you as a user need not bother about security. You as a user only have to access your data. So who has to bother about security? The cloud provider has to bother about security. For example, suppose you are making use of Amazon Web Services, a cloud service. Okay, so Amazon should be concerned about security. You need not do much to buy an antivirus, or maybe to set up a firewall, or maybe to secure your data. You don't have to do much. Most of the things are at the server side. So your work is offloaded. Your data is in one place. It's the server provider or the cloud provider's duty to look after the security of data. So you are offloading your work. That is not your botheration. It's going to be someone else has to bother about it. Okay. Third is logging. Now, what is logging? Whenever we are going to have a cloud computing environment, or a cloud service is being made available to the client, each and every activity that the client and the server are involved in will be maintained in the form of a log record. Now, maintained in the form of a log record. So you should first of all understand what is meant by a log record. Every transaction is recorded. For example, let's not take a cloud computing example. I'll just give you a day-to-day example. Suppose, I as a faculty member, I'm going to the college. The moment I enter the college, maybe we have a procedure in place. We have a guard who's standing at the gate. So he will make a note that I entered the college at this particular point. Making that note is maintaining a record. Then I'll go and I will do a biometric thumb impression. Immediately, the thumb impression will get recorded. The time at which I have done the thumb impression, that will also get recorded. After that, I go and meet, suppose, the director. Then that is called as a transaction. That is going to be recorded. Each and every activity that you do is going to be recorded. When we record each and every activity, that is called as a log record. Like that, in case of cloud computing, the client and the server, once they get connected and once the client starts interacting with the server, each and every transaction is going to be recorded. So how is it useful? By chance, there's a breach of security. By chance, you feel that your data was compromised. By chance, you feel that the data security was not maintained. Very well, these log records can be used in order to sue your cloud service provider to say that the services were not up to the mark. The security of the data was compromised. So logging is another benefit that we get as a part of cloud computing service. All the time, all your transactions are going to be logged. They are going to be recorded. So that is evidence that can act like a evidence, that can act like a proof by chance the security gets breached. The next is forensics. So you people know the meaning of the word forensics. Have you heard of this word called as forensics? What is forensics? Nobody knows? You learned cyber security, is it? Rishikesh?
Ma'am, it's like investigating or something
Rishikesh
like
is
that.
sleeping, huh?
Ma'am, there is a puja going on in
In the house. Oh, wonderful. So you are in the puja. Why are you logging in here?
Ma'am, I'm not in the puja, but the sound will
You,
disturb
you are
everyone.
in the puja or you are in the class?
In the class, in the class.
Okay, tell me what is forensics?
Ma'am, forensics is basically data analysis. I mean, gathering the data that is required to investigate like
Yes,
certain criminal offenses that occur in
correct.
regarding data.
Simple, I'll tell you. You people have seen CID, no? Or no?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
You have seen all crime serials that come up maybe on YouTube or on television. What generally what happens is, if to prove something, you require some clues. So if you want to prove that there was a security breach, then you need forensics. Forensics is data only. It will help you to prove something. It will help you to gather more information regarding a particular activity and to know whether it was done correctly or not. Okay, so cloud provider, if at all there's a security breach, if at all your data gets compromised, cloud provider always can provide, since log information is there, it can provide forensic information. I'll give you one example. Generally, when I'm trying to do net banking, or suppose I'm trying to make use of my debit card, or suppose I'm using phone pay or google pay or something like that, generally when I have to log in, it will ask for my credentials. What are my credentials? My user id, maybe my password or a pin number or something like that. After that, there could be a second level checking, wherein if I'm doing a financial transaction, I get a OTP. So if I enter the OTP will come on my mobile phone. It won't go to someone else. So only if I enter the correct OTP, then I'm allowed to do that transaction. So all this data, or maybe when I'm trying to, you people must have seen when you're trying to fill some online forms, there's a captcha that comes there on the screen. With the help of all these, you can prove certain things. You can check whether the user who is trying to make use of the cloud services, he's an authentic user or not. So as a part of cloud computing services, and as a part of cloud based services, forensics are always there. Cloud provider can provide those forensics in order to prove that credibility of the user was established. All right. So one inherent benefit, because we are using cloud, we automatically get this. We don't have to do much. As a part of the protocols that are followed to establish cloud service between client and the server, we do get forensics. Okay. Then we have the last one, that is development. Security vendors provide frequent novel solutions all the time. See, when you are having a standalone computer, generally you may buy an antivirus, but you forget to update it also. So this happens at our side. But when professional people are providing cloud services, they will keep on improving the security of the servers, and they will keep on and often they will provide new solutions to see to it that your data remains secure. Now here, in all these points that we discussed, most of the things are done by the cloud provider. The user doesn't have to do anything. Maybe the user has to put only his username and the password. Checking, authenticating, verifying, implementing different algorithms, seeing to it that the data remains intact. All these things are done by the service provider himself. So try to understand the meaning of the word inherent benefits. Because it's a cloud environment, automatically we'll get all these benefits. What are the benefits? Data leakage can be avoided because all your data will be stored in one place, centralized place. There's offloading of work. That means the cloud service provider will be the one who will be concerned with providing the security. So on your part, you have given all the responsibility to the service provider. Logging every transaction that is done on the cloud, a log of that is maintained. Also, forensics are established in order to, if at all, if necessary, if you feel that the security has been breached, the cloud service provider will provide you information for forensics. Okay. Then It is the duty of the cloud service provider to frequently update and provide new solutions, novel solutions for improving the security of the data. Okay. All right. Now, most of the service providers will also be concerned with auditing and compliance. Okay. Now, what do you mean by auditing and compliance? Do you know the meaning of the word audit? Audit means, in commerce, you people must have heard this word called as audit. Whenever there are financial transactions at the end of the year, there are chartered accountants who will do an audit of your organization to check whether all the transactions that have been recorded are correct and they are up to the mark. Otherwise, you try to show that you have done this transaction and you are doing something else. So you have a lot of black money involved there. Okay, so audit will establish whether you're following the whether all your data, all the transactions that you are showing are correct or not. Compliance, in the sense, you try to check whether the organization is coming up to the standards, is following those standards in order to maintain the data. Whenever we use the word comply means coming up to the standards, seeing to it that the standards are followed. For example, suppose in our college, suppose we have this rule that we have to make a biometric thumb impression by 10 minutes before 9 o'clock. So everybody has to comply. All the faculty members have to put a thumb impression by 8:50. If your college is starting at 9 o'clock, by 8:50 the thumb impression should be done. What does that mean? There is a rule and we have to come up to that standard. We have to comply to the rule. So whenever we are talking about cloud services also, there is auditing and there is compliance. Now, compliance starts prior to SaaS. Prior means previous. Before SaaS applications were introduced into the market, how was the compliance done? How the transactions or the users, their identity was established? How the security of data was maintained? So you all can have a look at compliance of TAS prior to SaaS, before SaaS services, before cloud computing services became popular, how they used to establish compliance. You can have a look, identify the users and access privileges, identify sensitive data, check where it is located, identify how it is encrypted, document this for auditors and regulators. Means earlier when we used to have standalone machines, your data used to be on your client machine and there only all the processing used to happen. Before cloud computing was introduced, this is how it was done. Find out the users, check their controls, access controls, check their privileges. For example, if he's an administrator level user, then his privileges are different. If he's an operator level user, his privileges are different. Find out which data is very, very sensitive, which is confidential, check where it is located, see that it is encrypted, and all that you are going to maintain in the form of document in future if at all the data is audited. Okay. But after cloud computing services were introduced into the market, once cloud computing started becoming popular, then SaaS applications started becoming popular. So there were certain tasks post SaaS. Post SaaS means after SaaS applications are introduced, apart from all this, that is the first few points that I've put up on the slide, apart from that, some new regulations, some new compliances had to be maintained. What are those? First is securing the hardware, the applications, network, and the data. Because now you are in a cloud computing environment. So your hardware, that is maybe the client, maybe the server, the application that you're using for accessing the cloud service, the network, as well as your data, all that has to be, security of that has to be maintained. And the second and the most important point is to come up to a standard which is called as PCI DSS. All cloud-based services are expected to comply to PCI DSS. What is PCI DSS? Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. All your applications that are going to work in a cloud-based environment, they should come up to this standard. They should comply according to this standard. Have you heard of PCI DSS before? In cyber security, you have come across that anywhere? PCI DSS, have you heard about it?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay.
No, ma'am.
So, do you use PhonePe? Those of you who use PhonePe,
Yes, ma'am.
anybody uses
Yes,
PhonePe? Now, you when
Yes,
you
ma'am.
open, the moment you open PhonePe, why don't you check if you have it even now? When you open PhonePe, down at the bottom of your app, you people must have seen that line, PCI DSS. Have you seen?
yes, ma'am. PCI DSS
Yes,
compliant.
CIDSS. Is it there? What does that mean? PhonePe is a payment app, correct? It's a payment gateway, right? It is, if at all you're going to do some payment transactions, anybody's app you can't use. If you start using anybody's app, which is, made in India, made in Tilakwadi, made in RPD Cross, no, it may be made in India, maybe made it at RPD Cross, but it has to come up to a standard so that all the financial transactions that are happening online, they are secure. Now, how does this security part come up, or how do apps respond to the security part? By doing one thing, they are going to develop their apps which are up to the standard. This PCI DSS is a standard. Some points of PCI DSS we'll learn in the next class. The PCI DSS prompts the developers to comply to certain standards. They have come up with some points. Your apps should satisfy those points. Your app should comply to those points. Only when it is PCI DSS based application, it can be widely used in the market. Moreover, such applications will be secure. So whenever you decide to develop a payment app or something like that, if you have in mind, you don't forget this standard, which is called as PCI DSS standard. Okay. So your general putting a username, putting a password, checking the authenticity of the user, all that is going to be there. Apart from that, security of the hardware, security of the application, the network and data, plus making your application compliant with PCI DSS is one of the important aspects, making your application cloud compatible application. Okay, so I will tell you more about PCI DSS, but remember it is a standard which allows secure transactions. Everybody's understanding this? What is that standard going to do? It is going to ensure secure transactions on a network. All right. We will stop here. If you have any doubt in what we learned just now, you people can ask me. I will show you all the slides. Yeah, we learned today clients. In fact, we have learned it in the previous class also, previous chapter also. I have told you about mobile clients, thin clients, thick clients, and security aspects. Security is important, but because it's a cloud environment, some automatic benefits we get. Inherent means automatically we get because they are characteristic to a cloud. Okay, so how is a cloud made up of? It's made up of server. You may have a switch or a router through which the clients are going to access the data. So if you maintain your data, everything on your client machines, it is not so secure. But if it is on the server, everything will be in one place, and it's the job of the service provider to give you the security. So all these points we will automatically get, naturally get, because you have a cloud-based environment. And we know now what is meant by auditing and compliance. Previously, only few points we used to do. Just check the username, his password, check his privileges, encrypt the data, and that's all. But now with cloud, with SaaS means with cloud. Okay. After SaaS applications were introduced, these two important points also come up, that is ensuring security of hardware, applications, network, data, that is the whole setup is secure. Plus all the cloud-based environment applications, they come up to PCI DSS standard, payment card industry data security standard. Most of your debit card, credit cards, all that, they follow this standard, PCI DSS standard. Okay. All right, you enter your attendance and let me know if you have, if you want to ask me something. Okay, should we stop? Any doubts?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.